Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lena and I make college and book videos here on YouTube. If you were into one of those things or both, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. Today I felt like I should do a book video. I did a college video last week and I don't always do every other, but I just really felt like I wanted to talk about books today. I am an English major, so that's kind of why. But today I wanted to do the classics book tag. I will have a link down and below the blog that I got the questions from, but without further ado, let's get on into it. So the first question is an overhyped classic, and for this, I thought about it a great deal and I decided to go with a classic that is pretty standard high school material that I hated, and that would be Lord of the Flies. Yeah, no thank you. Basically the premise behind the book is this group of, I think they're like pre-adolescent / adolescent boys get stuck on an island and they just basically descend into quote-unquote savages. Yeah, I just don't think that's true. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't find it believable, and I also found it very, very disturbing. And as material for required high school reading, I think there are so many more classics that high schoolers could be reading and could be more worthwhile with their time. The second question is favorite time period to read about, and that would probably be the mid to late 19th century, and that's only because most of the classics I read are mid to late 19th century, so that's like Victorian era. All of my Russian novels really take place during that time, so that's why I'm kind of into that, but I don't really restrict myself based on time periods, but of course like the dresses are to die for. It just makes those books so much better. Next question is favorite fairy tale. Now, I'm just gonna say Cinderella for this one because she is my favorite princess. I used to be really into reading like the original fairy tales that were really, really gruesome and disturbing, but I don't really do that anymore and I haven't read them in quite some time. But I would just say Cinderella because I love all the remakes and musicals and retellings. I just love all of that. And without fail, in almost every remake, her dress is to die for, so like how can you go wrong with that? You look at Belle remake, live action, no, that dress was not to die for. The fourth question is the most embarrassing classic that you have not read. This is also a tricky question for me, but I decided to go with required high school reading again, and I have not read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I know. I think I had that on my summer TBR for this summer and I never got around to it because they changed the curriculum when I was in high school, so it ended up skipping the year that I was in, so I didn't end up reading it. And I don't know that I ever will read it, but I do find it embarrassing because Mark Twain in his books constantly referenced in American literature as well as in my English classes, and it's kind of embarrassing that I haven't read them. I haven't read any of his books considering that they are required reading for most high schools, and the rest of my peers in college are like, yes, we know what you're talking about exactly, and I just never really know what they're talking about. Fifth question is top 5 classics on your TBR. This was very difficult for me because I always have a long list of classics because I know that I'll never be able to read all of the classics, but I decided to just come up with 5. So the first classic is Color Purple. Really, really need to read that book. I think both of my sisters have read it and I really want to read that one as well. The next one is Moby Dick. I have seen a one-act version of the book, but again, like a really iconic piece of American literature. Ever since they mentioned it in the Waltons, I've wanted to read it. Next one is Count of Monte Cristo. This one wasn't really on my radar until recently. I'd always been aware of it, but like I hadn't really been interested in it, but I really want to read something by Alexandre Dumas. Next one is Little Prince, and this is just because like how can I claim to be a French major if I've never read The Little Prince? I mean, it's a valid question. And the fifth classic that I have on my TBR is the Iliad by Homer, obviously. I read the Odyssey in high school, and the Iliad is such an iconic piece of literature and I feel like I need to read it, so that is also on my TBR. Next question is favorite modern book based on a classic. This is kind of a tricky question because I tend to stay away from those books intentionally. I have read a lot of retellings of like princess and fairy tale kind of stories because those are pretty common. As far as like typical classics go, I would say it would be First and Then by Emma Mills. I don't know that I can actually recommend this book because I read it my freshman year of high school at a Governor's Institute, and I really was just like, it's a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, and I was in love with it. I was obsessed. I thought it was the best book ever, but you know, I don't really think it is, because if you look at the general reviews for that book, not that great. I think it was just I was reading it at the right time in my life. But because I don't read many, I guess that would be it. 7th question is your favorite movie or show which is an adaptation of a classic novel, and that would be the War and Peace BBC miniseries from 2016. I read War and Peace my junior year of high school, and then I watched the BBC miniseries shortly after. In love, like literally so good. I've seen the miniseries so many times. I listen to the soundtrack nonstop. I'm not a big like movie, TV show soundtrack person, but the BBC miniseries War and Peace soundtrack, I'm here for it. Like I highly recommend you look it up. I love the cast and the way that they retold the story. Because it's a miniseries, they don't have to cut as much and they can really go into depth in all the scenes, and I just love the actors that they chose, and it's if you can't tell, I love it. I'm excited to watch it this December because I watch it every December now. It's kind of a tradition that my sister and I have, so I'm really excited to watch it next month. Question is the worst adaptation, and to stay with the theme of Russian literature, I would say the 2012 Anna Karenina movie with Keira Knightley. Yeah, no thanks. In theory, the concept was cool with having it be like this stage within the movie production kind of thing, but like I just don't think it was executed as well as they would have hoped, and it was, the clothes were not accurate, and I really like to watch the movies to have accurate and period appropriate clothing, and they just weren't. So I found that really frustrating, and I also didn't like some of the people that they ended up casting in that movie. So I would say that's the most disappointing adaptation, but obviously, like, I'm the person who always says the book was better than the movie. There are so many more adaptations I could go into, but we'll just stick to that one for now. This question is your favorite editions to buy classics in, and again, tricky question. Let me just show you. So most of my classics that I personally own, I have in Barnes & Noble Classics, mostly because they are affordable and they are paperback, and like they're not, if I ruin them, I won't become heartbroken. But because I own so many, I've become attached to them. And I really like the way they look now, even though you would think I wouldn't. I have quite a few of those, and then I also have some Signet. I also have Signet classics. I have 2 of those. So I have Les Mis and Signet, and this really beat up version of Silas Marner as well. And then I just have like a bunch of random editions. I'm not a big hardcover person. I don't like to read a lot of hardcover books. I find them kind of annoying when I'm like actually physically holding the book. But when I grow up and I have like my own little library, I would love to get some really nice editions with like gold embossing, like hard leather covers. Like that is a dream of mine one day, but for now we'll just stick to affordable classics that I don't have to destroy my bank for. And the last question is, what is an underhyped classic? And I decided to choose 2 classics for this for 2 different reasons. First would be The Scarlet Letter. This is another book that a lot of high school kids read. I didn't read it in high school. I read it in college because I realized that I was really missing out on the fact that I'd never read it. And I really liked it. People say it's dry, and I get that because the beginning with the whole custom house chapter is incredibly boring. Like, that was a bad idea, Mr. Hawthorne. But the rest of the book, the characters really spoke to me. I found the plot fascinating, as well as the symbolism and deeper meanings within the text, and I really enjoyed that book, and I really didn't go into it thinking I would. The next one would be War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, and I read this book my junior year for a Russian independence study, and I knew that the book was going to be epic just because of its sheer size. Everyone knows it's kind of an epic book because of the amount of time it covers, the amount of characters, the history, all of that kind of stuff. But it's more epic than you could imagine, and that's why I think it's underhyped, because people focus on the page length versus the actual epicness of the characters and the relationships and the plot and the scope of the novel. Leo Tolstoy, like, I've read 2 books by him now, Anna Karenina and War and Peace, and just like, he is the real deal. I love his novels, and I could not recommend War and Peace more, even though it's a lot to take on. If you promise yourself you read a certain amount every day, you will get it done. So those are all the questions in the classics book tag. I'm not gonna tag anyone because I don't really know anyone, but if you wanna do it and you're a booktuber, go for it. Thank you so much for watching today's video. As always, if you have any book recommendations, video recommendations, leave them down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you all next week, probably with a college video. Welcome to, this looks crooked. Maybe it's not. Okay. Or both, I would love for you to